I never thought the ground could feel so cruel. One moment, I was soaring over the final jump at the estate's showground, heart pounding with exhilaration, and the next, the world was a blur of dirt, splintered wood, and screaming hooves. My ribs screamed in protest as I hit the earth, and for the first time, I truly understood fear, the kind of fear that comes when someone wants to break you. Silas. Always Silas. The man who wore charm like armor, but hid cruelty beneath it. I had trusted him once, let him believe he could control me. But as I lay in the dirt, clutching my side, it hit me. He had done this on purpose. Loosened the saddle. Made me fall. My body ached, my pride shattered, but my spirit, that was something else entirely. I dragged myself to the stables, ignoring the searing pain in my ribs. The horses sensed it immediately. Their soft nuzzles and quiet whinnies were the only comfort I needed. They had never let me down. They never would. Unlike him. Finian appeared beside me, concern etched across his rugged face. "Cora, you need to rest," he said gently. His hands hovered near mine, hesitant. There was something protective in the way he stood, something that made me feel grounded even as the world seemed to tilt. "I can't," I gasped, sitting on a bale of hay and watching my champion horse, Belladonna, paw at the floor impatiently. He did this on purpose. Silas isn't just cruel to me. He's cruel to them too. Finian's eyes darkened. "I've noticed. The horses, your competitor's horses, he's been tampering with them, hasn't he?" I swallowed, anger rising hotter than the pain in my chest. "Yes. And now I know exactly what I need to do. I'm done letting him break me. Done letting him control anything I love." For the first time since that fall, a wild, untamed resolve coursed through me. I wasn't just an equestrian champion. I was a force, a spirit as fierce as the animals I cared for. And anyone who underestimated me, including Silas, was about to learn a lesson they'd never forget. Finian stepped closer, lowering his voice, almost intimate. "I'll help you, Cora, but you need to trust me." I looked into his eyes and felt a warmth that had nothing to do with the sun streaming through the stable doors. "I trust you," I whispered, letting that trust settle like a shield around my wounded body. "But this time, it's going to be on my terms." He nodded, a small smile tugging at his lips, and in that moment, I felt something else, something dangerous, tender, and undeniably thrilling. I wasn't just reborn, I was awakened. And Silas, Isolde, and everyone who thought they could control me, they hadn't seen the wild side of Cora Sterling yet. I thought I'd seen cruelty before, but nothing prepared me for walking into my own bathroom and finding Isolde sprawled in my custom tub, my expensive oils glistening on her skin. The scent of lavender and rose hit me like a slap, my personal indulgences being stolen, my sanctuary invaded. And there he was, Silas, standing by with a champagne flute in hand, watching her like a predator admiring his trophy. His eyes flicked to me, full of that familiar sneer that made my blood boil. "You're early," I managed, my voice tighter than I wanted, my ribs screaming protest with every breath. "You're useless to me injured," he said smoothly, pouring more champagne into her glass. "Isolde is much more flexible. Go sleep in the guest house. You smell like the stables." Every word was a knife twisting in my side. The same man who claimed to love me just watched me nearly die once, and now this audacious display of betrayal, was meant to humiliate me further. Isolde looked up lazily, a smirk tugging at her lips. "Oh, Cora, don't be so dramatic. You'll survive. You always do, eventually." I wanted to scream, to throw something at them both, but the pain in my body grounded me. I inhaled, forcing calm into my shaking limbs. The stables, Belladonna, Finian, my allies in patience and vengeance, they reminded me that I was not helpless. Finian had been right. Silas didn't just want to control me. He wanted to break everything I loved, every connection I had. And I had just been handed the blueprint. I turned my eyes to Isolde, taking a slow, deliberate step closer. "Enjoying yourself in my tub?" I said, voice deceptively soft, almost sweet. I hope the water's warm enough, because very soon, your luxury will end. Isolde's smirk faltered slightly, though she tried to recover. Cora, don't be ridiculous. You're hurt. This isn't your fight. Oh, it's very much my fight, I hissed. And it starts with reclaiming every inch of what you think belongs to you. Silas chuckled, a sound meant to mock me, but it only fueled the wildfire burning in my chest. You should have stayed under that saddle, Cora. You're weak. I ignored him, stepping back with measured poise, letting the rage settle into a cold, calculated resolve. Weak? No. Patient. Observant. And I have an ally who actually understands power and loyalty. Finian. At the mention of his name, Silas's confident mask flickered. He didn't know that Finian had been quietly gathering evidence of his doping and betting schemes, enough to ruin him entirely. And he certainly didn't know that I had just decided it was time to fight, not just survive. I limped toward the door, my eyes never leaving theirs. Enjoy your champagne while it lasts. The game's about to change. And Silas, you're about to discover that wild spirits cannot be broken. And with that, I left them both stunned, my mind racing with plans for exposure, revenge, and reclaiming every piece of the life they thought they could control. The night air in the stables was sharp, carrying the scent of hay, leather, and the faint musk of horses. Belladonna nudged me gently as I approached, her eyes full of calm reassurance. Finian was already there, crouched beside her, examining the tack with a quiet intensity that always made me feel safe. You came, I said, limping slightly as I reached him. I never doubted I would, he replied, voice low, careful. I've been collecting evidence for a while, just in case he went too far. I watched his hands brush over Belladonna's saddle and reins with expert precision, and something in me softened despite the anger still coursing through my veins. Too far? You mean the way he tried to break me like one of his horses? I asked, a bitter edge in my tone. He looked up, his eyes locking with mine. Exactly like that. But I've got enough to put him away if you want me to. A thrill ran through me. Put him away? Finian. I want more than that. I want him stripped of everything he thinks he owns. I want him to feel the weight of his own cruelty. He nodded slowly, the corner of his mouth quirking in agreement. I thought you might say that. For the first time in months, I felt a flicker of something else, a dangerous, intoxicating warmth whenever Finian looked at me. He wasn't just my ally. He was the calm in the storm, the steady hand guiding me back to myself. I had trusted him implicitly from the start, and now I realized there was more to that trust. Cora, he said, breaking my thoughts. We'll need to move carefully. Silas isn't stupid. If we make a single mistake, it could backfire. I stepped closer, lowering my voice so only he could hear. Finian, I've survived his cruelty. And I'm not alone this time. I've got you. And if you'll have me, I want more than just an ally in this fight. His eyes widened slightly, then softened. More than allies? Yes, I said, letting my hand brush against his. I want partnership. In this fight and in everything else. Finian's breath hitched slightly, and then he gave a small, almost shy smile. I think I'd like that very much. The horses shifted nervously around us, sensing our tension, our silent promise, our plan forming in whispers. Finian pulled me closer, careful of my ribs, and whispered, "We'll start by gathering all the proof we need." Then we let him fall on his own greed. I nodded, feeling a fierce pulse of determination. And when he does, he'll never know what hit him. He brushed a soft kiss to my temple, a promise, a spark, and I felt my heart skip despite the pain in my body. This was no longer just about revenge. This was about reclaiming my life, my freedom, and maybe something dangerous and beautiful with Finian. Tonight, we weren't just a team. We were a force. And Silas wouldn't see us coming. The stables were quieter than usual that evening, the soft nickers of the horses echoing off the walls like whispers of secrets long kept. Finian and I moved carefully between the stalls, our footsteps muffled on the straw-covered floor. I could feel the weight of anticipation in the air, Tonight was about more than horses. It was about exposing Silas and reclaiming everything he thought he could control. Finian knelt beside a crate, brushing dust off a hidden ledger he had discovered during one of his late-night inspections. "Look at this," he said, flipping the pages toward me. The numbers were coded, complicated, but the pattern was clear. Silas had been doping his prized horses, manipulating race results, and funneling the winnings into shell accounts. I felt my pulse quicken. This wasn't just petty cruelty. This was criminal. And the best part? We had proof. I traced the ink with my finger, the thrill of discovery igniting a fire inside me. "He thought he could hide this from everyone," I whispered. "From me, from the jockey club, but he didn't count on us." Finian's hand brushed mine as he handed me the ledger. The touch sent a shiver up my spine, one that had nothing to do with the stable's cool air. He caught my gaze, a hint of a smile in his eyes. "Cora, you're unstoppable when you decide someone's going to pay." I laughed softly, leaning against the crate. "I'm unstoppable when I finally realized who's on my side. And I think I'm starting to realize who I trust with more than just my secrets." Finian raised an eyebrow, leaning closer. "Oh, you," I admitted, letting my voice drop to a teasing whisper. "I trust you with my horses, my plans, and maybe a little more." His laugh was quiet but warm, a sound that made my chest flutter. "A little more," he teased, eyes darkening with intrigue. "That sounds dangerously tempting." I smirked, brushing a loose strand of hair behind my ear. "You have no idea." The moment passed, and we returned to the ledger, poring over Silas's schemes. Every detail we uncovered added fuel to the fire. Emails between him and shady bookies, receipts for banned substances, schedules of races where his horses had suspiciously underperformed or overperformed. Each piece of evidence built the case, but also built the tension between us, a quiet electricity that neither of us could ignore. Finian leaned closer, his shoulder brushing mine as he whispered, "Once we expose him, he won't know what hit him. And neither will Isolde." I felt a surge of satisfaction and something more, admiration, desire, and trust all wrapped into one. "Good," I whispered back, "because he underestimated both of us. And he's about to learn the hard way that the wild never stays tame for long." We lingered there a moment longer, hands nearly touching over the ledger, hearts beating faster, minds plotting the downfall of the man who thought he could control us. In that quiet stable, surrounded by the very creatures that embodied my rebirth, I realized something crucial. Vengeance would be sweet, and love, real, unrestrained love, might just be the ultimate prize. The morning sun spilled through the stables, casting long shadows over the stalls and the horses' gleaming coats. Finian and I moved like ghosts, careful, silent, but every step we took was purposeful. Today wasn't just about discovery. Today was the first strike. The first move in a game Silas didn't even know he was playing. Finian's eyes met mine as we approached Belladonna's stall. "You ready for this?" he asked quietly, his tone serious, but there was a spark there, a flicker of something electric that made my chest tighten. "I've never been more ready," I replied, though my ribs protested with every breath. He's underestimated me for the last time. And he's about to find out what happens when he crosses someone who refuses to be broken. We set to work, carefully transferring evidence from Silas's ledger into a secure folder that Finian had rigged for digital protection. Each document, each coded receipt, every photograph of a doped horse or manipulated race schedule felt like a blow to the empire Silas thought untouchable. Finian leaned closer, and I caught the faint scent of leather and hay that always seemed to follow him. "You know," he murmured, his lips close to my ear, "I've been waiting for this. Waiting for you to realize just how unstoppable you are." I swallowed hard, feeling a flush creep up my neck. "Is that encouragement or flirting?" I teased, trying to mask the way my pulse quickened. "Maybe a bit of both," he admitted with a smirk, his warm hand brushing mine as we worked. That touch alone sent a thrill through me, a dangerous, intoxicating spark that made my focus wobble just slightly. I shook my head, regaining my composure. We can't let anything distract us, Finian. Not now. He nodded, but there was a glint in his eye that told me he wasn't letting the tension go either. I'm not distracted, he said softly. Just invested in the right things. We finished cataloging the evidence and secured it in a hidden vault beneath the stables, safe from Silas's prying eyes. I felt a rush of triumph. This was our first real step toward dismantling everything he thought he owned. Finian caught my gaze again, and for a moment, the world narrowed to just the two of us, the rustling of hay and the quiet breathing of horses around us. Cora, I'm not just helping you with this. I'm with you. Every step. And maybe even more than that, he said, voice low and intimate. My heart raced. More than that? I asked, teasing but also daring him to say it. Yes, he whispered, his hand finally covering mine, warm and steady. If you'll let me. I smiled, feeling a thrill of both power and tenderness. Then consider me letting you. The fire inside me burned hotter now, fueled not just by the need for justice, but by the dangerous, delicious possibility of something more with Finian. Silas may have thought he could break me, control me, or humiliate me, but he had no idea that I had allies, strength, and a wild, untamable heart that refused to bend. And Finian? He wasn't just my ally anymore. He was my partner in vengeance, my partner in life, and perhaps something even more intoxicating. The air was electric as we arrived at the racetrack, the early morning sun glinting off the polished rails. Finian and I moved with quiet confidence, carrying the evidence that would bring Silas's empire crashing down. Each step was a mixture of adrenaline and satisfaction. I could almost hear Silas's smug laugh in my mind, and it fueled me further. We have to be precise, Finian whispered, brushing a loose strand of hair behind my ear as we ducked behind a maintenance shed. One mistake, and he'll know something's coming. I leaned closer, feeling the warmth of him next to me. I don't think he'll know what hit him. Not this time, I replied, my voice steady but low, a thrill running through me. We waited until the jockeys and officials were distracted, then Finian handed me a small tablet. The files were ready, photographs of Silas's doped horses, the manipulated race schedules, the shell accounts funneling his illegal winnings. Are you ready? He asked, eyes locking with mine, a playful glint mingled with seriousness. I nodded. I've been ready for this my whole life, I whispered, though my pulse quickened at the proximity, the tension between us almost tangible. I tapped the tablet, sending the compiled evidence to the Jockey Club officials' devices. Notifications pinged across their phones, and a hush fell over the group as they scrolled through the damning material. Finian's hand brushed mine again, lingering slightly, sending heat up my arm. Cora, he murmured, his voice almost a growl. You did this. I smiled, leaning into his touch. We did this. You and me. The officials' shocked murmurs turned into urgent discussions. Within minutes, the news of Silas's doping, his gambling manipulation, and the financial irregularities spread across the track. He stormed out of his private box, his face red, fury and disbelief battling for dominance. I caught Finian's eye, and we shared a quiet laugh, the first moment of levity in the storm. Looks like the Baron's empire is crumbling, I whispered. He pulled me close, careful of my ribs, and his lips brushed my temple. And I think someone deserves more than just justice tonight, he murmured. My heart skipped, the thrill of the exposure mixing with the dangerous warmth of his words. Oh, I teased, tilting my head up to catch his eyes. Yes, he said, his voice low, intimate. Someone deserves to celebrate properly. I felt a shiver of excitement, not fear this time, but anticipation. The victory, the adrenaline, the closeness, it all culminated in a dangerous, intoxicating moment. Then let's celebrate together, I whispered, letting the tension between us crackle like static. As Silas was confronted and escorted by officials, I realized that my rebirth wasn't just about survival or revenge anymore. It was about claiming freedom, power, and passion, everything he had tried to steal from me. And with Finian by my side, I was ready to embrace it all, the triumph, the love, and the wild, untamed life I had always deserved. The estate was eerily quiet as we approached, the aftermath of Silas's public disgrace still lingering in the air. His luxury cars were gone, the gates locked, and the servants avoided our gaze as we walked past. It was as though the walls themselves knew he no longer held power here. Finian's hand brushed mine as we entered the main house, a subtle reminder that I wasn't alone in this. "Feels good, doesn't it?" he said quietly, eyes scanning the empty halls. "It feels satisfying," I replied, a small smirk tugging at my lips. Like the weight of years of control and manipulation is finally gone. He chuckled softly, the sound warm and intimate. "And you deserve every bit of that satisfaction. But I think you might deserve something else too." I raised an eyebrow, leaning closer, letting my curiosity and the tension between us build. "Oh, and what's that?" His lips hovered near my ear. "Celebration. And maybe a little reward for all that brilliance, courage, and stubbornness." I laughed, the sound echoing through the empty hall, despite the bruising in my ribs. "You're dangerously flattering right now, Finian." He smirked, his hand sliding gently over mine as he guided me toward the veranda. "I'm just stating facts. Besides, the day isn't over yet." We moved through the estate, collecting all the last pieces of evidence that would finalize Silas's legal demise: his accounts, his correspondence with shady bookies, and the records of horse doping. Every document we secured felt like another nail in the coffin of his arrogance. "Cora," Finian said suddenly, his voice low, teasing. "I think we make a good team. Dangerous, clever, and let's be honest, irresistible." My heart skipped a beat. I turned to him, letting my gaze linger on his, feeling the magnetic pull between us. "Irresistible, huh? Dangerous, yes. Clever, hopefully. But you're going to have to earn the rest," I teased, letting my hand brush over his. He caught it, holding it gently but firmly. "Challenge accepted," he said, lips curling into a flirtatious grin. The night air grew cool as we stepped onto the veranda, the last rays of sunlight reflecting off the stables. Belladonna and the other horses were grazing peacefully, oblivious to the drama we had just orchestrated. I felt a surge of contentment. I was free, my life reclaimed, and my partner standing right beside me. Finian leaned closer, his breath warm against my neck. "You know, you're almost as wild as the horses you love," he whispered. "And I wouldn't have it any other way." I shivered, a mixture of desire and thrill running through me. "Good," I said, letting my voice drop. "Because I'm not done with this wild ride, and neither are you." His laugh was low and satisfied. "Oh, Cora, I think this is only the beginning." As the sun dipped below the horizon, I realized that my rebirth had given me more than survival or revenge. It had given me freedom, power, and a love that matched the fierce, untamed spirit I had always carried. And with Finian by my side, nothing, no man, no obstacle, could ever control me again. The courtroom was silent, the gavel striking like thunder as Silas was officially banned from owning horses and his assets were seized. Watching the arrogance drain from his face was intoxicating, a satisfaction I had never imagined I'd feel so fully. Justice had finally been served, not by luck, not by chance, but by careful planning, courage, and the undeniable truth of my own strength. Finian's hand found mine in the packed courtroom, fingers intertwining. I looked up at him, and the intensity in his eyes mirrored my own exhilaration. "We did it," he murmured, his voice low but steady, almost reverent. I smiled, leaning against him just slightly. "We did. And it feels incredible." Outside, the sun had dipped low, painting the sky in streaks of amber and crimson. Belladonna and the other horses grazed nearby, free from the shadow of Silas's manipulation. I exhaled, letting the tension of the past months finally ease. Finian drew me close, his hand brushing the hair from my face. "You know," he said, teasing yet tender, "all that strength, all that courage, and here you are, still stealing my attention." dangerous and irresistible. I laughed, leaning into him. Careful, you're dangerously flattering yourself now. He smirked, pressing his forehead to mine.
Good.
I like a challenge. I felt my heart beat faster, not from fear or adrenaline, but from the undeniable pull between us. And I intend to keep giving you one, I whispered, my voice low and teasing. He chuckled, his lips brushing mine in a feather-light kiss that made the world feel suspended, perfect, and entirely ours. I was hoping you'd say that, he murmured against my lips. The warmth of his body against mine, the smell of leather and hay, the soft knickers of the horses, it all felt like a life reclaimed, a sanctuary built from freedom, love, and fire. Later, as the stars began to pierce the velvet sky, Finian and I walked through the stables, the soft rustle of straw underfoot, our hands intertwined. So, he said, his voice playful now, what's the first thing we do with all this freedom? Besides making sure Silas doesn't sneak back. I tilted my head, a mischievous smile playing on my lips. We live, wild and untamed, just like these horses. And maybe we see how far we can push each other. He grinned, leaning close, his lips brushing my ear. I think I could handle that challenge. The night air was cool, but the fire of triumph and desire burned between us. For the first time in years, I felt completely untethered, free from manipulation, free from fear, and utterly alive. And as I leaned into Finian, his arms strong around me, I knew this was just the beginning of a life that no one could ever control again. For the first time, I wasn't just surviving. I was living, loving, and untamed. And I would never, ever be broken again.